Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the Bry-Fy podcast. I'm your host, Bry-Fy, your comics guy. This week, things are a little bit different. I want to apologize for y'all. I am currently on a business trip and away from any of my recording devices. However, my Podbean app on my phone allows me to do very limited recording. I've never really actually played with it, so I don't know how much I could really do with it. There's like all kinds of buttons. You just heard I added a little bit of music to the beginning of the episode. I can mess with echoes, effects, and tones. I'm kind of scared. Oh my god, there's like actual stuff like there's cheering. I can let's turn that off. I got some claps in there. That's pretty cool. That's pretty fucking fancy, man. Or maybe, if I tell a joke, I could get some laughs and stuff. All right, this is fun. I like this. I got a soundboard now. No. Got some other fun. I can, add some echoes. I can talk like I'm talking in a church. Or maybe doing out in the valley, maybe. Or maybe a live show, live gig or something. Or I can talk to you guys like I'm talking to you in the classroom. I don't know. That's really weird, really strange. Excuse me for that. I'm learning things as we go along here with the Podbean app for my phone. And that's kind of cool. I kind of actually dig that and like it. Hopefully the sound quality isn't too bad. I'm not using my phone mic that I have, my Shure microphone that is for my iPhone. I left that back home with my wife because she wanted to record some video, and so I left that with her so she could do her YouTube channel because she's almost to 1,000 subscribers, which means she's almost able to monetize, so that's a big deal, and I don't want to take that away from her. This week, though, guys, of course, we're finishing up my X-Men review. I know it's December, no longer November, but I wanted to read one more X-Men story before I was done, and we're taking a look at Avengers vs XMEN, the event from 2012. So hopefully you guys enjoy listening to me talk about that later. But up first, we are going to get into some nifty nerd news. Sorry for the weird pause there. Trying to work on some stuff. Anyway, first, guys, we are going to get into some nifty nerd news. Did you like the little sound thing I got going on there? Yeah, I'm playing with sound and music and transitions. I think it's going pretty well, don't you? Man, that's fucked up. I did that to myself. Yeah, there we go. That makes me sound better. Who am I, Walker the Geek? No. Anyway, guys, not too much on the nifty nerd news front, mainly because I don't have it in front of me and I can't really look at stuff between my app while I'm recording and what I was going to. And plus, like, everything that's been going on, we had Thanksgiving last week and I got the business trip this week, so it's been pretty hectic. Some of the stuff I do remember, though, Netflix has purchased a really old theater out of New York City. It's like a one-screen theater, 71 years old, to start showing some of their, like, original movies. It's kind of cool. I don't really know how it's going to work. And maybe that's something Netflix could do, is like buy up all these old dying movie theaters that maybe have still like that character or a reason for people to kind of, want to go visit. I mean, I think about like the movie theater, the rundown one back in my hometown. I mean, they built a new one, so no one is ever going to go back to the old theater. But there is on our square, our hometown square, I think it was converted to a church at one point. Now I don't think it's anything. I think it's just abandoned. But it used to be the very first theater in my hometown, and it's only got one screen. And it would be cool if like Netflix or like some other company was able to like make something interesting out of it, something that you're not going to get at the regular movie theater because it's Netflix only. And I don't know if it would survive because there's a reason why that one failed in the first place. And I'm sure it needs a whole bunch of upgrades just to even be remotely usable. But that would be so cool if Netflix was able to do that. It'd just buy up all these old theaters and just make them cool again, you know? And I only say that because, like, I wish my hometown square, like the little town square, was way cooler than it is. It actually blows. It sucks. There are smaller towns than us that have way cooler town centers. In fact, the town that I'm in right now, Glen Rose, Texas, I feel like it's smaller than Bay City. It might not be. It might actually be bigger, but it feels smaller. And we drive through their little town center in the morning, and it looks just gorgeous. It's beautiful. Excuse me. All these lovely little shops and things, and I want that in my hometown, okay, guys? I want that. Up next in the nifty nerd news thing, and the last thing we'll talk about before I get into the comic book I wanted to review, is Warner Brothers is reportedly they're wanting to make Suicide Squad 2 rated R, along with the Birds of Prey movie. They want to be rated R. And while I think for Suicide Squad that works really well, and it could play, you know, with the violence and stuff, I don't know how I feel about Birds of Prey. And maybe, I don't know, I think maybe that's my issue with Warner Brothers as a whole. They're going with this darker tone in all of their movies for the most part. I don't know if that's maybe them being like, hey, Joker worked and that was rated R, so maybe this one should be rated R. Like, and I think that totally misses the mark on why the Joker worked so well for them. Other than, oh, it's just a really famous guy. Like, I feel like that's how Warner Brother movies are. It sounds mean and like bad, but I don't think they're really good. I think it's just the characters are always been so popular because of the comic books, you know, so people like flock to the theaters to see these characters that they love. And honestly, the movies suck. And I mean, that might not be the case. Like, I actually genuinely liked Wonder Woman, and I actually genuinely liked Aquaman, and I haven't seen Shazam yet. I need to rectify that. And Suicide Squad wasn't awful, but it wasn't really that good, or I didn't really enjoy it that much. Anywho, but I think Warner Brothers being like, hey, yeah, let's make everything fucking rated R and get crazy. No, I think that's a bad idea, and I think that's something that they should avoid. Not that I'm trying to be like, oh, Birds of Prey is not for not for girls, but like for a younger audience maybe, or it could be for a younger audience if they played it that way. But I don't know how they're gonna play it. I don't know if they're gonna just be like, oh, these are bad bitches, and they're gonna like fuck some shit up and make people bleed, and then say fuck Batman. Like, I don't know, but I'm worried. I'm worried if Warner Brothers wants to make it rated R, because I just don't know if it's gonna work as well as, say, a Suicide Squad movie that could be rated R, or like the Joker movie that was rated R. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on the whole subject matter. You guys might have different opinions than me. I don't care. Anyway, that's enough for the nifty nerd news, guys. Let's just move on to the comic book that I wanted to review for this week. That's not the sound clip that I wanted. Let's try. Yeah, we're excited. Yeah, let's move. Yeah, buddy. All right, guys. So we're looking at Avengers vs. X-Men, which came out in 2012. Fun little tidbit. When I was first getting into comics, this was the big event going on, or like, you know, the big crossover in Marvel going on. And I kind of stayed away from it because I didn't know what crossover events really were. They were just huge, pricey books, like, you know, like pretty much guaranteed $1 more than what I was paying for comics. And at that time, I think the Deadpool I was reading was $2.99 an issue, like $3 an issue. And I think that was Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn's run. I was reading Superior Spider-Man, which I think was a $4 book. It might have been $3 at first and then jumped to a $4. I can't remember. I feel like at that time, a lot of my books were $3. And then shortly after, like, that year ended and everything jumped up to $4. And I remember being like, oh, comics are too expensive. But I kind of avoided Avengers versus X-Men only because, one, I didn't really read any Avenger books or X-Men books, you know, and so like I was only kind of interested to see like, or what I thought was like, oh, certain Avengers will fight certain X-Men, and like, I kind of thought that's how the story was going to play out, but that wasn't really at all how it all went, and so I just stayed away from it until here recently when I decided, hey, let me give X-Men a try. And even though I said, yeah, I want to get into X-Men books, I think the two X-Men, quote unquote, X-Men books I've read this past year or this past month have involved the Avengers. So they've been like big crossover events that have the Avengers. And I think only Magneto was the only one that I was reading that it was just a mutant thing. And so maybe I failed. I don't know. But at the other time, I think I found some really interesting things that I like about the X-Men and things I want to read more into. With Avengers versus X-Men, it deals with the Phoenix Force. Hope Summers, which is like the future daughter of Scott Summers, and I don't know which female, maybe Emma Frost, I don't know, because they're like in this weird place where I think they're in a relationship, but I don't think they're in a relationship, but they're kind of in it. I don't know, it's really weird. I don't know if mom and dad love each other. And so I don't know if that's if Hope is the child of those two or Scott and someone else, but I know she is for sure Scott's child from the future, who was trained by Cable and is now back in the past, because that's what the X-Men do apparently. She's like destined to save the mutant race, or like be its savior or its like ultimate destroyer. So, you know, either or, 50-50, whatever, we'll keep you around just in case. And it turns out like the Phoenix Force is coming back to Earth as a result of what happened with Scarlet Witch in House of M, where at the end of it she gets really upset at what her father and her brother, or what her brother Quicksilver had done and made her do, or like basically tricked her, and so she said no more mutants and pretty much wiped out the entire mutant population except for like 200 or even less than 200, I think. And so as a result of that, the Phoenix Force, which has had this weird, creepy obsession with X-Men characters and mutants in general, decides to come to Earth and to potentially inhabit someone, destroy the Earth, or do something. Scott believes that it's going to help the mutants and be like a force for good. Although, of course, you know, with the Phoenix, it's something that rebirth that comes through ashes, you know, the destruction. So something is going to be turned into ashes in order for mutants to be reborn. The Avengers, of course, being the Avengers, freak out, and instead of just calmly talking to people like people you should do, they always have a show of force. So Avengers show up to X group, like, well, I'm not just X-Men group, but like any group, like Group A. Avengers show up to Group B, and Group Avengers always has a show of force, makes Group B really unsettled and nervous, and so they lash out, and Avengers are like, oh, how dare you lash out? And then Group B is always like, well, you showed up with like a fucking Hulk, or, you know, like, I don't know how to react to this, so I'm just going to defend myself. And like, so of course the misunderstanding starts, and that's when Avengers are now fighting the X-Men. X-Men are trying to keep Hope Summers to their side because she is the mutant messiah. Avengers want to protect her from the Phoenix Force because they believe that if the Phoenix Force inhabits her, they will destroy her and kill the rest of the world. So yeah, that's kind of a big issue. Eventually, the Phoenix Force does come to Earth, and instead of inhabiting Hope Summers, the mutant messiah or harbinger of death, if you will, whatever one, it splits itself up into 5 other mutants. Cyclops, Emma Frost, Namor, I think, Iron Boy, Peter, God dang it, what is his name? The Russian dude. Oh, he was in Deadpool. Why can't I think of his name right now? It's Peter, right? Like Petre. or something. Oh my god, it was my best friend's like favorite character. I am so bad with with mutants, and I'm pretty sure people are just yelling at me right now, like Brian. Yeah, booing me. I feel like it's right on to my time. Anyway, who else was it? Cyclops, Emma Frost, Namor, Iron Boy, and I don't know. It's not important, because what is important is they basically one by one start losing their minds, and not losing their minds, but getting very Magic is yeah, because she's the sister of the metal dude. I can't remember his name. Why can't I remember his name? It's like something cool, something metal. I'm sure it'll come to me later. But so slowly they start kind of being power hungry and power obsessed, and the Avengers trying to fight against it. Sorry, my music started kicking on. The Avengers fighting against it are able to, with the help of the Scarlet Witch, fight back some of the Phoenix Force people. Although they're like uber strong, like super strong, like stronger than any villain that they've ever faced. And slowly they start going from like X-Men with a cause to pretty much just straight up villains. But when they defeat one of them, the Phoenix Force leaves that person and then divides itself into the remaining ones. And so basically when you defeat one, the others get stronger. And so it's kind of like this weird catch-22 when you are able to actually defeat a Phoenix Force member. And eventually that power kind of corrupts them as well, like the Phoenix Force, and then they start fighting each other excuse me, to gain more power. And so that's when things get like really crazy, and because it gets finally down to like where it's just Scott and Emma Frost who are the last two Phoenix members, and they're starting to have like the final fight where the Avengers, what the hell, Iron Fist plays a big role in this, because apparently they have a crazy dragon that can fight and defeat the Phoenix Force, and that's where Hope goes to go train, because she's gonna punch the shit out of Scott. I don't know. And so they come up to like get their comeuppance on them, and Scott, realizing that he can't win at the power level that he's at, he's only like basically half power, decides to not kill, but pretty much kill Phoenix Emma, so that he can gain her powers and become the Phoenix Force. Well, that turns him into the Dark Phoenix, and now he's pretty much just ready to explode the whole world, like the ocean's on fire, all kinds of crazy shit. And so the Avengers are like, oh, this is it. This is kind of like, we need to win here. And of course they do. The Scarlet Witch, who Hope blamed for this whole thing even happening, is able to team up with Hope, and they're able to take on Scott Summers and stop him. However, before that happens, Scott's able to kill Professor X, because he dies again, or maybe, no, is this before Magneto? Yeah, this is before Magneto. So this is how Professor Xavier dies. See, now I'm making connections here. But like, so that's like the crazy thing with the whole mutant stories. Like, I read these stories of things have happened, and then I go back and I'm finding out, oh, this is how it happened. This is why this happened. And so it's kind of cool, kind of interesting. And so the day is saved at a great cost. The Phoenix Force is kicked out of Scott, and it's flying around looking for a new host. And Hope Summers is right there, and everyone's like, no, don't let it be Hope. But Hope's like, I've kind of trained my whole life for this bitch, so let's suit up. So she takes on the Phoenix Force powers, and is embedded with them, endued with them, and she sucks it up, and she's able to go around and stop the earth from exploding. But now it's like she's the one with the power. Now she's starting to be like, I see where the Phoenix Five went wrong. Like, it sounds like a band name. Like, I see where they messed up and where I could do better. But of course, everyone's freaking out because they're like, no. So the Scarlet Witch has to step in and kind of remind Hope, like, the reason why she was trusted with this, the reason why she's the one who was able to be trusted with taking in the Phoenix Force powers, and that was because she's the only one strong enough to be able to let it go. And so they use Scarlet Witch's chaos magic along with Hope Summers' Phoenix Force powers to be able to Colossus. Oh my God, Colossus is the name I've been thinking of. What the freaking hell, man? Like, just cheer for me because I finally remembered it, guys. I'm so happy here. God, how can I forget fucking Colossus, man? Anyway, yeah, so Hope and Wanda, they're able to use Phoenix Force and her chaos magic to make the Phoenix Force disappear by saying, instead of no more mutants, they say no more Phoenix Force. But the Phoenix Force just doesn't go away. It actually goes throughout the earth, and I guess with its last breath or whatever, it brings back all the mutants. It gives a bunch of people mutant powers and makes them all mutants again, and pretty much rights the wrong that happened when Wanda Maximoff was like, no more mutants. And yay, the day is saved. Scott Summers is in jail because, he still kind of murdered a lot of people and almost destroyed the earth. The rest of the Phoenix Five is kind of gone in the wind, hiding. And of course, Professor Xavier is dead. And that kind of sucks, man. But that leads us to like Magneto and some other stories that are kind of cool that I've been interested in. And it was all right, like, I think overall I kind of dug the story. It's long though. It's 12 issues. There's a few Infinite comics in between, and I didn't expect it to be 12 issues. Most of the events that I've been reading are anywhere from 6 to 8. I think one was 10, I think was the most. And so getting 2 more issues beyond that, it felt like a long read. But it was still fun. It was enjoyable, and I liked it. Artwork changed differently. It even had different writers throughout the story, which was kind of weird and kind of interesting. A lot of people played a hand in what was going on with Avengers versus X-Men, and some of it, most of the part, for the most part, the storytelling was really solid and interesting and engaging the whole time, which I really enjoy. I think there's some times where the art was never bad, but there were definitely some artists that I enjoyed more than others. And so after getting the guys that I really liked and then getting ones that I didn't quite like was a little weird. And so I don't know, maybe that took me out of it a little bit, but it wasn't bad though. Like, there was no bad art in this comic book, so there's nothing to be worried about if you're on the fence about reading it. Like I said though, it's 12 issues long, so if you're gonna read it, sit back and buckle up, Buttercup, because it's gonna be a while. And sorry guys, my nose and throat is finally catching up to me, I'm still trying to get over the sickness that I got like Thanksgiving Day. Like, I woke up with a sore throat, like, just killing me. And so I've been just fighting everything to try to record. Like, I've tried recording before I came on my business trip, but with my throat, I really couldn't. It was just so sore. It hurt. I was coughing every like 3 words. And I know I'm sorry. I've coughed a few times during this recording, and even despite my best efforts not to, I've had to stop the recording a few times so that I could cough and then come back to it. So if there's any weird, awkward pauses or strange cuts. That's why, and I really apologize for that. Overall, though, as far as a rating goes for Avengers vs. X-Men, I give this a positive charge, guys. It's a good story. There's some really interesting and key things that happen here. I think what this story has done for me more than anything else is now I want to find out how what I call the downfall of Scott Summers has started, because what I remember of Scott Summers is like he's like this good old Boy Scout, you know, like basically Professor Xavier's soldier bitch, you know, like he's ride or die with Professor Xavier. And to see him get to the point where he's a terrorist and kills Professor X, where Professor X is like, this is not what I wanted you to be. Like, this is not where mutants are supposed to be. Like, this isn't how things are supposed to happen. Like, how did this downfall happen? How did Scott go from the leader of the X-Men to basically being Osama bin Laden, you know? Like, he went batshit insane and thought he was fully justified in what he was doing. And that's kind of crazy, man. Like, where did he snap? When did this all happen? And so that's what I'm kind of interested in. Of course, later when like Secret Wars happened, like when was Secret Wars? Was it 2016? 2015? I can't remember. Scott Summers is there again, and he has the Phoenix Force. Like, he is the Phoenix Force, like, again. I think they, like, find an egg, like the Phoenix Force egg, and he decides to take on the powers again to do, like, crazy shit. But, so, yeah, like, where does this all come from? How does it get to this point? That has me interested. So I think I'm going to go back to try to find out, like, how this all happens. And so that should be a good read. And I think this past month of November, with all these stories, has succeeded in getting me to fall for the X-Men, or at least want to know more about the X-Men and find out that there are some stories that I really dig that I didn't think I dug. So I'm pretty cool with it, man. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. I want to apologize for the sound quality. I want to apologize for just all the bad going on. Trying to make the best that I can out of it. Just, oh man, sick, guys. So I'm gonna go take some nighttime Thermaflu, or basically NyQuil on steroids, try to get some sleep, and do this whole work thing again in the morning. And so I'll try to post some pictures, because where we're staying at is godly beautiful. It's amazing. It's a cute little town. So I don't know. We'll see what we do from there, guys. But just thanks for being a part of the show. Thanks for being a part of just my audience, and just thanks for dealing with this whole episode, man, with the stupid sound effects and all this other stuff, guys. So we'll talk to you next week. Bry-Fy out.